going on, guys?
33. Nothing.
Long time no see.
Too much. We're the poles of the spectrum. Chuck is nothing, and I'm too much.
That's right. At least we're not running around, trying to get states to flip election results, right?
Too political.
We got flagged. Too political.
For the record, the state of Exorcast will not be joining that lawsuit.
Yeah, right.
We're happy with everything.
I just want to say something that causes like Twitter and everybody to go down to the bottom and say this may not be true. I just want to say
that would involve enough people watching to do that.
Yeah, right. All right.
So this is episode
34. Yes, 33.
33. 33.
Yeah.
We just had that conversation, Chuck.
I was just in bewilderment about political stuff that we can't talk about, so it's okay.
Aren't we all? And the
So
funny thing is we can't go into any further detail, because if we go into any further detail, it'll be even more delayed when it comes out and outdated.
That's true.
We've this is 3 weeks, 2 weeks we haven't recorded.
2 weeks straight we didn't record, yeah. Last time we recorded was before Thanksgiving.
Right.
Wow.
And the week of Thanksgiving, I was quarantined because my daughter and my wife were both exposed to COVID.
But nobody got it, right?
No. And I missed the busiest day in my store's history.
All that money.
And when you work off straight commission,
I was going to say,
it's a real kick in the dick.
Normally that's great, but in your case, that fucking sucks.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this: the Families First Cares COVID Act, whatever it is, pays shitty. They covered like the days I wasn't working. They pay you a third of your hourly.
There are reasons for that, but we won't go into it.
And I don't get an hourly, so it's like they got to break down my last 3 quarters of what my commission is, and then divide it up. So
it's okay, because you're going to get a $600 stimulus check here pretty soon.
Sure. I know that's the current push. I'm just saying, sure.
Hey, he's married, so make it double that. And he's got a kid, so add another couple hundred. You got 2 kids. You may do pretty good on it.
Mm-hmm.
If it happens.
As I said before, we will be outdated in a few weeks.
We're always outdated, boys. We're always outdated. But when does this go up?
That is the nature. That's the nature of us all being over the age of 35.
Yeah, right. When will this be up? Like, when does this episode go on?
Let me see. This episode will be up next week, the week of the 14th through the 18th.
So the movie we're covering was still going to be relevant by the time next week rolls around.
It just hit Shudder.
Exactly.
Literally like 2 days ago or 3 days.
I don't know how this movie got made so quick, because I hear a week ago or 2 weeks ago that they're making Castle Freak, a remake of Castle Freak, and all of a sudden it's on Shudder.
Barbara Crampton's been working with them on this for a while. She's been talking about it on Twitter a bit.
Yeah. But
so it's been going on for a while, deep in the wilds of Albania in a castle.
Well, yeah, is this the same castle that Full Moon always shot in?
No, his castle's in Spain, if I recall correctly.
Oh, so we've got different castles.
I mean, it could be the same castle, because the first Castle Freak took place in Spain, but all they got to do is be like, hey, this is Albania, not Spain.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Because they looked like the same places.
I disagree. But you mean outside the castle?
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that.
The funny thing about this, though, is like, I know Charles Band was just a producer on this.
Oh, yeah.
And it said Full Moon Empire. It didn't say Full Moon Features or Empire Pictures or none of that stuff. It just said Full Moon Empire, but it was Charles Band. This movie automatically looks better than anything they've made in 10 years.
Well,
it's
of course, because there's no puppets in it.
There is no puppets. But
there's
it's
no
like
puppets. There's no repurposed footage from a movie he has the rights to. It's public domain.
It looks cinematic though, and it looks like it had a budget behind it. Nothing Full Moon's done lately looks like it all looks cheap. I just watched Blade, boys. Okay.
Blade the Iron Cross, for the record. Blade the Iron
Cross.
Not
Blade Boys.
Yeah.
And also not Blade, the movie he also just recently got for review in a 4K Ultra HD.
Puppet Master Blade the Iron Cross. And I was telling W before we got on the air here that the whole thing, they've been using the same movement stills of Blade for the past 10 years. Like,
That's what they all do. Haven't you been watching Trauma and seen how many times they flipped a car?
Yeah, but see, now it's becoming super obvious now. And it's becoming super obvious that they're using green screens a lot at full moon, you know? Like, this is part of their Deadly
In-house.
10. Yeah. So, this is part of their Deadly 10, so obviously, I imagine the budgets were super cheap for these. But, as like I was telling him, besides some good kills here and there, and, you know, a hot lead that gets naked, Blade is skippable. Blade the Iron Cross. So there's your quick review.
I'm pretty sure that all of us knew that before you said anything.
Silly me, expected maybe a little bit better. You know, although I have suffered through the trilogy of the Axis films that they've done recently.
I see here an article from June 2018. So they've been working on this for at least
not Corona,
2
boy.
years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they've been working on this movie for 2 years. Is Blade or
this movie at least 2 years. I have an article from June 25th, 2018. Then I have another article from literally the next year, 1 day later, saying that it's getting a remake again. Like, so they may have announced it, then fucked around with it for a year, and then worked on filming it.
Yeah. But now, man, back to what we're covering today, which is Castle Freak. If you watched the original anytime recently, which I didn't get to touch up on it, unfortunately.
I will.
But this is way different. Like, they keep a castle, a freak, and a blind girl. That's the only thing the same, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit more.
There's a lot more. It is different, but there's a lot more in it that they kept.
Yeah.
There's more to this than there was in the first one.
I won't deny that.
Well, that's because we crammed a bunch of Lovecraftian stuff into this one. Because I'm thinking, you know, not much of a spoiler here, but just kind of saying that we're trying to open up a Lovecraftian universe here, I believe.
So, before we get too deep into this, we should all say, what, briefly, do we think about the original? I saw it for the first time 2 days ago as we record this. I think it's probably one of the best things I've ever seen that has Charles Band related to it in any way, shape, or form. Put it that way. I think Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton are amazing in it. I think their performances, specifically Dollarhide, the woman playing the blind daughter, are all so good that basically a movie that probably has far less budget than it should looks fantastic, and you feel so much just because of how well the family's acting. Anybody else?
As far as my Stuart Gordon films go, I would put it under Reanimator and From Beyond, but I would put it above Dolls.
So, that works.
Yeah.
Like I told you, James, because you asked how long it's been since the last time I watched it. And we watch this a couple of times a year because my wife and I both love it. I would say Castle Freak is below Reanimator and above From Beyond for me.
I would say it's definitely below Reanimator. I'm not sure if it's above From Beyond or not. On my case, I'm not 100% sure.
I haven't watched this since like 2012 when 88 Films put it out on, I think it was just DVD at the time. Of course, later on, Full Moon actually put out the Blu-ray themselves. But it's been a long time since I've seen the original.
Well, didn't you watch the Joe Bob episode?
No, I hadn't watched it. I try to skip around just Joe Bob segments, you know.
I'm going in order, so I'm only up to his original Christmas special. Phantasm.
We're up to date. We're going to watch this Friday on his new Christmas, whatever it is.
Well, they all disappear so quick, you know.
You do your best. And God forbid they actually get around to putting out the parts where it just shows his segments.
That's all I want. That's all I want. Really, that's all I want. Because I don't have to go back and watch The Hills Have Eyes again, you know. But I'd like to see the segments.
Anyway, That's out of the way.
I'm going to get a bottle of water real quick, so carry on, boys, because I can feel the cough won't go away.
Sure.
Hurry up,
I think
Chuck.
we can all agree, though, that was a general thing. That was Exorcast says, check it out.
Yeah, if you've not seen the original Castle Freak, I 100% recommend doing so. But no, I did. Chuck and I were talking before we got on the air here, and I don't think either of us really had any expectations for this.
I didn't really either. I mean, I know that Barbara Crampton's producing it. Did you guys hear that at all? Just checking. No? Okay. Suffice to say, my wife is playing a video game in the other room. We'll probably get quite angry, but I think I'm in a kind of soundproof bubble at the moment. But yeah, Barbara Crampton produced it. Charles Band had a hand in producing it. We'll leave it alone, but Cinestate produced it. You could.
I know you want to say so much more.
Oh, I very much do, but I'm going to leave that alone right now. Mostly because, as we've mentioned before, I'll put it this way: anything we could say about that, honestly, doesn't really affect this movie. No. You could view it through a prism in relating to that, but we're not really going to do that. So.
No. You mentioned Fangoria produces?
Cinestate, actually. Fangoria as well, but Cinestate. Yeah. In fact, for the record, the movie we're reviewing this week and the next movie we'll be reviewing also were made by Cinestate and Fangoria. Because apart from a magazine, that's mostly what Fangoria was doing when they came back was film production and the magazine.
So this is like their second run at making movies since like the first batch they made years ago, right?
Yep. The was it the last broadcast or last horror film or something, and
last horror movie ever,
or something like that, and Joshua and that time they did Fangoria Presents with Germ X and Axed and Inhuman Resources, and
I got all those movies for like 75 cents each at a
of course
at a dirt cheap, and they were like old Blockbuster rentals.
They didn't take off very well. Yeah.
I haven't watched them though, but I've got all of them.
What was the one? There was one that I saw that I forgot about in between all the other ones, and it was the only one where I was just like, "Wow, that was really bad." And that's the thing that's bothering me is I can remember like all the rest of them, but the only one I've actually sat down and watched is the one that was terrible and dull. But anyway, this is better than that. I will grant that. This is 2020 Castle Freak. Filmed live in Albania, in a castle, in a random Albanian town. There is no one in it, to my knowledge, that has much of a further filmography that we could talk about. I could be wrong on that.
I think everybody was very new.
And the director, was it Tate Steinsiek? He
like
was... Damn it. Is that what he directed?
What did you find?
No. He directed a movie called Clown.
Oh, I've heard of that movie. I also have heard he did makeup directing on Dragged Across Concrete.
Yeah, he did a lot of special effects.
Yeah, special effects credits for things like The Amazing Spider-Man and animation credits on Oculus.
Okay, so he's been around the block a little bit.
He's done a bit of movie stuff, yeah.
He also directed a zombie movie called Guts. It's a short film.
Yes. Yep.
I haven't seen that one. But automatically out the gate here, I like the fact that they try to make this look like more like a retro movie with the title and everything.
Font, yeah, it's very much a classic, like, old English style font, very Dracula, very, you know.
Mm-hmm. But one of the producers on this, I mentioned before we started, was Justin Martell, who also produces the Joe Bob Show on Shudder, and used to be the PR guy for Troma. That's how I know him.
I think also, since you mentioned Troma and PR guys for Troma, one of the other names I saw, trying to remember where he was at. I'm looking at it right now. He's also a producer apparently on Last Drive-In. Let me see if he's Yeah, produced by Matt Mandarides, who also is producer on In Search of Darkness, Return to Nukem High, aka Volume 2, Return to Nukem High Volume 1, Father's Day, a lot of trauma. I know him well because he helped put together an attempt to do a showing of, I think it was Mother's Day, and I want to say The Toxic Avenger, that I donated to on Kickstarter, and he was like listed as the person who did it. And then that sucker got held up for like a year and a half after it got finished, before they actually did the showing, when I had long ago moved out of the area. But whenever I see his name, I'm just like, oh, that guy.
So I can kind of see maybe a little bit of trauma influence on this in some ways. Some ways. Just more in the gore and the nasty stuff departments, you know.
Yes.
But so you want to tell them the synopsis for this?
Sure. So again, if you've seen the original, this differs. We don't have a family. We've got a boyfriend and girlfriend. And when does this take place? Because it doesn't look current. Because
I think it is pretty current.
Well, I'm not seeing cell phones. Like even when they're not in Albania, I'm not seeing cell phones. And the one girl is using a Polaroid camera.
I'll put it this way. I don't know when it takes place, but I will say, like, it's not as blatantly obviously taking place, like, in, let's say, the 80s or 90s as Spiral was. You know, it's clear maybe that it's not 100% taking place at the regular, straightforward time.
I would say look at whatever car that is he's in when they speed off in that car. What year was that car?
I will say that's an old-ass van that the friends arrived to the castle in, so, I mean...
Yeah. But that's also in Albania, so...
Yes, which again, no cell phones, but I mean, you know.
But when they're in the city though, when what happens at the start of it happens, and he's reckless driving, what kind of car is he driving? Does anybody know?
Fuck if I know, man.
I really wasn't paying attention. It didn't really hit me because that's all within like the first 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah. And
it didn't I didn't think to question when it was until later on when you don't see the I mean, even if you're in this, if someone was to go to a place like that, they're going to pull their cell phone out and they're going to take pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also a moment little bit later in the movie where the boyfriend discovers something or gets in town and something happens. And so he obviously wants to find something out, but he doesn't pull his cell phone out. He goes to a roadside, like, payphone to make a phone call. So
I'd say we're in like maybe the later part of the 90s here.
That's where I'm going
90s,
with.
90s, maybe early 2000s, yeah.
Which really doesn't matter, but maybe for the end of this film and what could come afterwards, it would matter, time frame wise. But regardless, so we've got Rebecca and John, and Rebecca is a very apparently badass girl, and John is her promiscuous boyfriend. And they're at a party. They both get very drunk, and they leave.
Everybody's drug addicts.
Yes.
Yep. Coke.
So they get into a car wreck. She goes blind from the accident. Scratched up her face. She's got a big scar. All that. Cut to, I don't know when in the future, but her mother has passed and left her a home in Albania. She's never met her mom. She was put up for adoption. So when they go, she's getting it described to her, and it's the castle. And her actual last name is Waitley.
Mm-hmm.
The first of God knows how many Lovecraft references in this movie.
Oh, there's tons, but for a reason though, as we learned.
Yes, but I'm just saying. There's one thing you mentioned. One thing I will point out. We didn't say it. Castle Freak itself was based on a Lovecraft story called The Outsider. The original was based on that. I looked up the plot synopsis of it. In the usual Stuart Gordon way, it's based on it in the loosest sense of the damn word. The original one is, and same with this one in a way. But
this one isn't.
Well, it's based on the original movie, is what I'm saying. It's based around, like, it's tangentially there and also plays around in some areas of it. What I'm saying is, whereas the first one's based on it, but not really, this one, you're right, it's not based on it either, but they decide that this movie needs every Lovecraft reference or, clue possible, basically.
So, okay, we'll do the synopsis then. So anyway, they get to the castle and they're there for a couple of days, and he's talking to like the guy that introduces them, who is, born and raised, has always lived there. He's a businessman. He's going to help them sell everything inside and then sell the property so they can go back to the States. The boyfriend is taking the helm on this because obviously Becca can't see. And he wants their friends to come in and help him divvy everything up and sell it all so he doesn't have to pay a commission to this guy. She, heightened senses and all of that, is hearing things in the walls. She's also seeing like memories from her mother who she's never met. And then shit starts to happen.
And then they bring their friends back in.
Well, yes, then the friends come and
the friends arrive as part of what shit's already started to happen before that.
There's
okay.
3 guys. One of them is the only one that matters, and his name is, they call him the Professor because he's the only one that's actually gone to college. He obviously
has a name, but we're not going to give that away because that's technically a spoiler to a post-credit scene.
So, and then there's one girl, and she's the slutty girl that wants to bang our main guy. So of course she comes. Yes.
That is the Indian guy from Blood Quantum.
Damn it, Chuck.
Well, I mean, I feel like he was.
First of all,
the
natives in Blood Quantum were all Canadian.
And indigenous.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was Indians, though, right?
They were native Canadians.
I mean, yeah. Look here. There's a baseball team called the Cleveland Indians. Okay.
Chuck.
Yes.
Put the shovel down.
I'm just saying.
When you say Indian, there's a place called India, and there's people there are Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all we're getting at. Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of what we're getting at anyway. Yeah.
Well, okay, my thing is, okay, I said I was mixed on this movie. And the reason I'm mixed on this movie is this is the biggest group of unlikable people I've ever seen in my life.
God, yes.
You don't even feel
There's
bad for the blind girl.
I like her. I liked her, and I like the Professor.
Well, she's hot.
I agree on what W said. That's the main 2 characters that are like
the
main character and the Professor.
Okay, the Professor, by the way, I think this is like his first acting gig because I read on IMDb that they wanted somebody like him to play the character because they wasn't getting nothing right with everybody come in. So they was like, well, why don't we just have him try out? So this is like his first acting gig.
I think he did a great job.
His first acting.
He's fantastic.
I don't know. It's spotty in some spots, boys. Like I feel like he's just rehearsing lines in some spots.
Have you seen any of your films?
What?
Nothing.
What? Player coach, okay? It's player coach. Plus, I don't have a budget. Like, I'm not in Bulgaria or wherever making my movies, okay? Because if I could afford to go on location, I could afford to have real actors in my movies. But the thing is like, the characters is what hurt this for me. And the actors in general. The rest of it is okay. Like, the plot's obviously interesting. The gore is great,
Yeah.
Great effects. But like, I wish we had a better cast. I wish like even the blind girl was more likable, because I don't like her. Like the only thing she's got going for her is she's good looking.
See, I have to disagree.
Yeah.
I really liked her.
You like her?
I did. I really liked her.
But she was
yeah. I'm also gonna side with W. I liked her and I liked the Professor. I admit the Professor, sometimes his performance was a little weird, but I also think that's intentional. Like,
yes,
he's
because
supposed to be kind of He's like supposed to be kind of a social misfit. That's the point. That's why
Well, and
act
they
the way they do.
make constant references of him being weird and strange and into dumb weird shit.
The first scene you see him, and he's talking about reptilians and like grand glorious conspiracy theories.
Right.
Okay. But okay, this girl though. Back to the girl. Like, what's her main quality? She's like the least druggy out of all the druggies here. Like, she's the one that's not snort. Does she snort the coke? I'm trying to think if she snorts coke.
I don't think she doesn't. They don't do anything after the accident. They don't drink. They don't do anything.
I think he's saying before the accident. If he
like
the coke
but she makes very bad decision because she let the drunk boyfriend she had to carry out of the bar drive. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's. But again, if this was the late '90s, that's the shit that's happening. And she did ask him if it was okay to drive.
But then, yeah, okay. Like, we're
and let's also not forget, not that we're dated or anything here, but I think all of us this year can speak to the fact that none of us can take for granted won't do something incredibly stupid when presented with the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, but I think later on, like when his friends come back to visit, I feel like he's sneaking something. What was that, shrooms or something? Like he grabbed something and put it in his mouth during one scene.
Which one?
He bought
the boyfriend.
He's got downers.
Yeah, he bought downers from the doctor.
Yeah. So it's like, she's trying, like, this accident, she's all straight and narrow, and he's slipping.
Well, because and it's because of the stress on their relationship being there that he's doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's crutch, but it's like.
So we said earlier that this movie is not related to the original.
Yeah.
You're right, but you're not at the same time, because there are certain pieces that they took from it, and one of them is that one of the things that makes Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs work is there's this relationship with them where, Jeffrey Combs got blind drunk, pun not intended, crashed the car, left daughter blind, and killed his son. And his wife never forgives him for it. And so she's cold to him. She doesn't want to have any form of a sexual relationship with him at all. So, that's their relationship. It's cold and fraught, and that's half of what drives their entire dynamic the whole movie. That also happens here. He was drunk. Now, she doesn't, like Barbara Crampton, completely not forgive him and, like, shut him out in every way, probably on some level because she thinks she's partially to blame because she let him drive. But
she does. She shuts him down for a while, though.
She does for a while, but there's an element more so where you can tell there's more of a relationship between them than there is between those. But that idea, that tense relationship, is still there, basically, like it was in the first movie.
But like my whole point though of it all is, like, my only real problem with the movie is the characters. Like I actually think the plot's good. I like the gore. We got some cool effects here, especially near the end. But it's like the characters, just, there's things about them, even their performances, that just rub me wrong. Like, she's supposed to be blind, right? She moved around really good for a blind woman during that last sequence, by the way.
I'm gonna call on that one because I've actually done interviews.
Unless she can see by the end.
No. What I mean is, like, when I was a kid, and in school I had to do research and projects about blindness and blind people. I did.
Oh, I know all your other senses get better.
So what I'm saying is I've spoken with blind people, interviewed them, and they find ways, basically. Like, I'll give you an example. The one that actually got me in the movie was she cooks.
Yeah.
Where she's making breakfast, cracks the egg. Now, I admit, credit to the movie makers for having there be you can see that one of the eggs is, like, off the side of the pan that she must have missed the first time she tried, and that's realistic. But basically, if you're blind and you want to cook for yourself, you will figure out a way to do it if you're in that kind of a way. So she doesn't do anything too absurd, like that she couldn't feasibly have done if she set her mind to it, kind of thing. That's my thing in terms of that. Like,
she was still falling over at the end too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's not too
But like,
she was walking up the stairs and tripped, and.
But was she tripping when the big thing happens at the end, and she's being, like, called or summoned to go where?
For one thing, she was being helped up the stairs by someone at that point. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
she's like with them, you know. Yeah.
We'll have to go back to the play-by-play on that one. I don't remember. I don't remember if a hand was helping her or not on that one. But like I said, that
hilarious. Very much on W's side here, but in the end, I'm probably more on Chuck's side. But go ahead.
But like other than the people, I really enjoyed it, and I'm very intrigued and somewhat full of dread by how we could go according to the end credit sequence. Because we won't spoil that obviously, but if we're going that direction, that's A, it's good because I'd like to see another one of those movies, but B, how are you going to recast that part?
They already did.
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying he's there. I mean,
we didn't see a face though.
No, but I'm saying there's a guy.
I mean,
there,
obviously, it's going to be a younger version, obviously.
Of course.
But I was surprised. Like I figured there was some sort of copyright there, but I guess he was mentioning it's Lovecraftian.
I'm 90% sure that Lovecraft stuff at some point will go into public domain. I don't think it has yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like at some point it will, and so that'll help with that aspect.
Well, we got to mention, you said in the group chat that we had that we have sex scene of the year here, apparently.
For sure.
How gross.
Before we get into that,
That's
real quick, I want to say.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, I just want to say, I said I agree with W. I agree with W that the professor and she are the most likable characters. I also agree 100% with Chuck that I couldn't fucking stand anybody else in this movie. And it's part of why I had a big problem with the movie. In my case. Because, I'll put it this way. What ends up happening to, we'll call it a character at the end of the movie. I was explaining this to my wife earlier. When that happens to that character at the end of the movie, you really want to happen to that character at the end of this movie. And that's one of the differences with this and the original. Like, they're not the story, they're not going with the same concept, but the original, they're going for redemption, basically. That's the whole point by the movie's end. You have slipping, you have redemption. This one has no interest in redemption whatsoever, and it's not that it made me hate the movie. It didn't, but I would have maybe been a little more into it had it not just been her and the professor kind of thing, if that makes any sense.
Well, and here's the thing. Like when I was saying that it's like this much of the original Castle Freak, that's because like Chuck and I were talking, this is legitimately an H.P. Lovecraft story.
Yes.
And this isn't, I don't really think this is a spoiler to tell anybody this, but this is the Dunwich Horror.
In the middle of Castle Freak.
Yeah,
sure.
I'd go with that definition. Yeah. Which also, I mean, not to spoil anything, comes up at the end. But anyway, let's say, yeah. Anyway.
But I mean, yeah, because it's all their names. The Whately name. That's why all the shit's in the house, like the giant Cthulhu statue.
Sign at some point, right?
Yeah.
The Necronomicon is here, by the way.
Yes,
I was going to leave that part out, but yeah, it's there.
I mean, look, let's be honest here. It's not going to really matter if we say that Yog-Sothoth is involved in various ways. Like, there are statues of Cthulhu. There's the Necronomicon. I've mentioned before, this is one of the issues I have with the movie, and not in like a bad way. In all of the Lovecraft adaptations I've pretty much almost ever seen, it doesn't really feel like it needs to throw a whole bunch of shit in there to like let you know it's a Lovecraft adaptation. There was a point where I was watching this and I'm going, I get it, it's a Lovecraft adaptation. And that's just myself. Like, I know that's not going to be everybody's opinion of it. But like, there came a point where I was just like, okay, it's Lovecraft. Stop, basically.
Well, see, like, yeah, it's overkill with it, but you kind of see later on why it's overkill with it.
Right,
sure,
but when you're watching it, it's like at first it's like little Easter eggs that you're seeing, and you're like, oh, that's cool that they're throwing that in there. And then when you get into like the fucking meat and potatoes of it, this is the most accurate Dunwich Horror film that's been made.
And of course,
aside from it not being in Massachusetts.
Yeah, well,
it's never reached that point for me in terms of getting to where I was like, that's so many, you know. But I mean, I guess I want to be clear. I like the ending. I like the idea they're going for with the ending. I'm borderline on the end credit sequence. We'll put it that way. Partially for what Chuck said, which it's for what Chuck said, which is this: if you want to do that, you want to make a universe, shall we say, that's fine. Until I see you do it, I'm not gonna be 100% on board with it because you could botch that real easy.
My hopes are just up here, so.
That's the thing. Mine are like
you've got to get the right person for that role.
Of course.
I mean, because it's like somebody playing Freddy. It didn't work when somebody else played Freddy.
Well, it's like I told Chuck. We're not going to say what the character is, but you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to cut this part out when I watch this. And we're back.
Well, I do admit that end credit thing got my attention. When he stood up and you realize if you don't understand what he's saying about the name, you understand about what's sitting on the disc. For
sure, because they zoom in and make that very fucking evident. But
very clear.
Yeah. No, like I'm all for it. I literally almost turned it off because
I wouldn't have been there if you hadn't said wait. If you hadn't said wait, I would.
I honestly wouldn't have expected something either.
See, I don't like stopping movies unless I've got to take a shit or something.
I'll jump ahead 10 seconds.
I don't pause a movie, but I had to piss really fucking bad, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I got the dog off my lap, and I grabbed the remote, and then the screen changed, and I was like, oh shit, okay. And I was literally standing, getting ready to walk into the other room to go to the restroom. And I was like, okay. I would have missed it.
So, like I said, I didn't like all of the characters, and that was a huge issue for me. You could make an argument the fact that I'd watched the original 2 days prior. I tried, for the record, to watch the movie we're reviewing next as a kind of palate cleanser. So I wouldn't be like, oh my God, it's, totally not this movie. Clear, it doesn't need to be the first movie. It doesn't need to be the original. It's not trying to. And again, I'm not exactly. I will say, though, that part of my issue with it is the elements of the original movie that it has bothered me because it didn't handle them as well as the original did. What it did on its own, it did great. And I would probably rate it higher, and I'm building to this because it's the whole issue I had. I texted you something, and you said 50 minutes in, it gets good.
It does.
And I asked you, you said 50 when I was 60 in. Because this movie is dull for its first hour to me.
Oh, yeah.
It has what you're talking about. What you're talking about at the 50-minute mark, yes, that's interesting. I don't deny that.
From the sex scene onward, it's good. The second sex scene onward.
And that's kind of the thing. Like
it's spotty.
I admit freely that the ending is great. You have to slog through this to get to that ending in some ways, for me anyway.
There's a good 15 minutes to take out in the first hour of it.
Which is the problem with everything these days. Everything is too long.
Which again, I hate. I was gonna bring this up, but you led me right into it. This is like 15 minutes longer than the original, right?
Well, and you do know that the whole Castle Freak thing. I mean, that is the Dunwich Horror. They just changed it in the first movie.
No, I'm not denying that. I'm just saying
Oh, let's get a Lovecraft expert on the phone.
I'm not an expert, but I like Lovecraft.
I would defer to him over me. I would defer to him on knowledge of Lovecraft to me. I'm just throwing that out there.
My knowledge of Lovecraft is the Lovecraft movies we've seen. Okay, that's whatever Wikipedia says when I go back and read about them. Okay, the Curse movie that we talked about that y'all crapped on. That was that type of stuff. But
what? We crapped on
Curse?
that?
What?
Well, you crapped on the original.
We crapped on that?
What are you talking about?
He did. The Curse.
I know what's going on here.
The remake. But, nonetheless. But now, look, this thing here is here's my thing about this, though. And this bothers me, and maybe we can't talk about it on air because you could cut it if we can't. But with the way this movie ends, with what's implied, how do you even go back to normal for what was in the end credit sequence?
on that front, I will say there was another movie that had an ending like that, Matt. That movie, if we're talking about cutting this, it was a big movie. It ended really nihilistically. Yeah, and that ending was very controversial to a lot of people. Some people want a happy ending; they really, really want one. And when that movie ended that way, it pissed some people off. I like that ending personally.
Well, if you go by the story that this is based off of, then there's a whole other tale to be told about how they get rid of this problem, right?
Yeah, there's always a whole other tale to be told about that. That's Lovecraft. I mean,
but like when you get rid of I'm just trying to figure out how you go from there to what we've seen in the end credits. You know what I mean? Like how would you even fit him and what he does into this if it continues?
Do you have to?
Well, I mean, you got to get rid of this big problem at the end of this movie.
Do you have to?
Well, you don't have to, but what's left of anything to have another story if they don't?
Well, but there are so many characters in the mythos that they all exist at the same time. So, I mean, legitimately, maybe this stays in this area.
Yeah. So it just stays where it's at.
It's possible.
Okay.
Honestly, that was my assumption. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that could work. But it's got me interested.
To be clear, I cut you off on this before, W. Do we want to say anything else about your 2020 sex scene of the year at all?
And it makes you wonder, like when it starts, like how far are they going to go with it? You know, okay. First of all, when it first started,
I thought something else was going to happen.
We were in the Jason remake territory for sex scenes when it first started. Like we were getting into the gratuitous area. You know what I mean? Like this was.
I think we were gratuitous overall, but that's a side point.
But then we cut it real short.
Like I thought that character was gonna be axed, like right at the beginning of that, but it didn't. It just it just started, and
What about our other two characters? Like those guys are super close. Like one of them's named Chuck. I think our Native American Canadian fellow is named Chuck, and then he's got his other friend, and they're just all about like being up on each other throughout the whole thing. Like they pep talk each other head to head. You know that's a very close couple.
I feel like you're getting in terms of that relationship. You're getting into the other movie what we're reviewing next time in terms of relationship between two male characters.
It's possible. You know. I just thought it was odd. Like you can tell like those actors what it was is they went in it to make it look like they were super close, which they're supposed to be. You know, but it looked awkward at times to me because I've known people for 30 years and we don't nose to nose pep talk each other before we do something.
You're also usually not on coke.
That's true. There's no coke involved.
That can do some shit. Is all I'm saying.
I'll take it back then. I take it back.
I wouldn't know.
But then
I wouldn't either. Just saying. Well, just saying that the portrayal in media to me of cocaine makes me think that getting to a point where you're like, fuck yeah, and that seems logical to me. Actually,
Rick James said it was a hell of a drug. Apparently, you know.
Exactly.
And look, we kind of pussyfooted around this the entire time, but it's Castle Freak, and the Castle Freak in this looked fucking awesome.
I think the first one looked better. The first Freak, the original Freak, but this one looked good.
Was the original Freak a female?
Nope.
That's one of the things they changed in the story. Spoiler.
Yep. Okay. Well, no, it don't matter.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't know if I cut that later.
I don't think it matters. You know.
No, I don't know. Well, and of course, you've got a whole different thing going on with this one, but yeah, I think it looked great.
Yeah, we're not gonna get too further into the whole different things, kind of, because then we're getting real spoilers there. So, but yeah, it still looks good. Like I said, the first one I think I liked it better in terms of the Freak that is. But this one's still really good. I like the Freak a lot in this too.
I almost talked myself into liking it more than I thought I liked it last night. I don't know why. Like I said on Twitter after I watched it that I was torn. I had to sleep on it. I'm leaning more towards the positive way because, like, thinking back now, the only thing I don't like is the characters.
Well, see, I don't have a problem with that because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm on record weeks and weeks ago saying that whatever movie we watch, that I actually like the characters, and I hate human beings. I don't like characters in movies. I never fucking like characters in movies. It's rare that there's two people in a movie that I like. So with the other 4 people in this being fucking just wretched, I'm okay with it because I at least found 2 people that I liked, and it's really hard for me to do in a film.
Best of the worst. Is one of them the freak?
Not including the freak.
Yeah, okay. He's talking Professor in the
very kind-hearted soul. That freak.
I would go probably freak number 1, blonde girl 2, and I'll give the professor. He's better than the rest, obviously.
But hey, I kind of liked Marco. The shady real estate guy.
Real estate guy.
Yeah. But no, I remember like when we first talked about this weeks ago. Like, it wasn't that long ago when we was like, well, in the news we're like, oh, there's a Castle Freak remake, and I believe Newsfinder was like, why?
That was like 2 episodes ago.
It was a Reanimator remake.
Oh.
And to be clear, in that situation, I was saying why, because the news I was reading was that Charles Band wanted to do Reanimator short films and do them like himself. And that's why I said
that's what you did
why.
say, yes.
Well, I just like I will say that all things considered, this exceeded expectations.
For sure.
I think we got Barbara Crampton to thank for this. I feel like she's the glue that held this together for some reason.
You don't think it was Charles Band?
Obviously, no, that's not Charles
Band.
Dude. Charles Band's like, here's money. Give me more money back.
Put my name on it.
So I can make Blade.
Use my castle.
The Littlest Reich 19.
Yeah, right. But then maybe he's doing.
No, he's going to make another Ouija movie.
He needs to put bad channels on Blu-ray. Why is bad channels on? It's gotta be
soundtracks.
Gotta be a music issue. Yeah, it's always
gotta be.
It's on Tubi.
I love it. I love that movie.
Great movie.
But no, like I said though, I think Barbara Crampton was one of the druids during one of the flashback scenes. By the way, in the flashback scene, like when that person's walking up there, somebody on the left, somebody on the right. Pretty sure she was there.
That'd be cool. I'll definitely watch this again. I actually looked to see if it was something that was out, and it's not.
It will be.
It will be.
RLJE, boys. That's right at the start of it. So it's
hey, and they're putting some 4Ks out, so maybe we'll get a 4K.
Maybe, like, it's possible, but it's rare with their stuff for some reason. You know, they put out like Beach House and stuff like that recently too, but which is all Shudder movies. Like everything they put out here lately says Shudder on it. I'm thinking the release of Host though might be when they burn on demand titles because
that'd be hilarious.
They're not sending it out for review, so I think there's an issue there. But
I mean, that's burn on demand. I mean, they should just sell you a fucking jump drive.
Yeah, right. They should. That's clever. But I like this, and I actually look forward to what's next in some ways. But I want to hear first. Like, I mean, this could be one of the things that they never touch on again. You know, who knows?
I'll be very upset if that's the case.
Well, they've got plans, obviously, for other stuff. But, you know, once you go through this and you go through that, what would be left, really, besides maybe, you know, the big monster, you know? Don't want to say his name in case it's a spoiler, but...
you don't know his name, so it's okay.
Cthulhu.
Oh, I thought you meant from this movie.
No. I meant like Cthulhu. Like, I mean, that's like the only other... Well, wait a minute. Dagon was Lovecraft, right?
Dude, there's a lot of Lovecraftian monsters, many of which are not as famous as the ones that they always use in movies.
Correct.
Well, that was like Cthulhu stuff too, right?
A bit.
In a way. Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. I remember this really hot naked girl in that movie. But,
Dagon?
Yeah. Like
no, Dagon's not Cthulhu. Dagon's Dagon, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was like...
I think he just means Lovecraft, and he keeps saying Cthulhu.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure there was some Cthulhu things in that movie, was there not?
I mean, there were fish people in that movie.
Yeah, like they look Cthulhu-ish, right?
They were Dagon worshippers.
That's different.
It's a different deity.
Yeah.
They're
is not a fish person.
They are members of the esoteric order of Dagon.
Well, see, you know this stuff. I don't know this stuff. I've seen Dagon once in my life, and that was whenever the Vestron Blu-ray came out.
That's the only time you've seen that movie, Chuck?
Yeah, it was. And I've not seen the Necronomicon movie that I've been telling you that I need to see.
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah, that.
Chuck, this could be yours.
It could be.
Look at this nice digibook.
I have this feeling that next year at some point we're just going to decide to do a bunch of Lovecraft movies just because.
Well, why not, right? Yeah, it looks nice. Yeah, you sold me on it, obviously.
I'm not against the idea, mind you. I'd love to do that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Combs plays H.P. Lovecraft in this.
Well, as he should,
Of course.
And they actually reference this story in this movie.
Hey, notice he don't go grab the Friday the 13th set now since I've already got one now.
Oh, it's upstairs.
Yeah, okay.
Also, that story is later.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. But, boys, I don't know. Like, as far as a rating goes on this.
I'll go last. Go ahead.
I was hell-bent on giving it a 3.
About that?
Hell-bent on giving it a 3. But I feel like it needs to either be a high 3, like a good 3, solid 3, or a 3.5.
Okay.
And I may go 3.5 just because, in comparison to everything else this year, I think it stands out. And it needs to, if you got to bump it an extra point just to make it stand out in the pack of stuff we've had this year, I think I can live with doing it. So I'm going for 3.5 as my final, but it would either be a high 3 or a low 3.5. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
As much as I like the ending, and as much as the effects are good, and as good as the professor is, and as good as the main character is, that first hour was so long for me when I watched it. And those characters made me so mad just in terms of the way they were. And I stress that because that actually filters into the ending for me. Because I loved the ending, but I would have liked it more had I liked the characters in the ending.
Yeah.
And I say that because I have this odd feeling I'm about to get dropped from this call because
I already know what you're going to give.
I liked Host more than this.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I'm giving it a 2.
Holy shit.
You do not understand how much the first hour of this movie pissed
How do
me
I
off.
drop him from this call?
See?
I liked the second part so much that it kind of made me forget how slow the first part.
That's the thing, honestly. I'm not going to deny the ending is great. And I'm also going to say, I'm giving it a 2. You should still see it. As remakes go, like, there are remakes that are insults. There are remakes that are really, really bad. There are remakes that should never have been made. I can't say that about this movie at all. This movie deserves to be seen. I will point out, if I recall correctly, I believe I gave American Rickshaw a 2. So,
2. So, a 2, boys, out of 5. A 2. That's how bad he really hates these characters.
You know my rating scale. My rating scale is 2.5 is average. And I'm sorry, that first half drove me round the bend. So, sorry.
Yeah.
I am
different strokes for different folks, obviously.
Like Chuck, though, I do want them to do something else. I want to see more done with this because I can tell from what they do in the end, they have an idea, they want to do something, they care about the mythos, etc. It's just the rest of it didn't hold up enough for me to just give it a higher rating based on the ending. It was close, but just thinking it through, it made me too mad.
Here comes. I feel like a big score is coming up next.
Giving it a 4.
I was actually expecting a 3.5. So.
See, I was expecting a 2.5 out of you.
Almost did, and honestly, I would have, but legitimately, I thought about it, and I realized that while Host made me annoyed, it wasn't Host the movie that made me as annoyed as the reaction to it. I was able to predict everything that was going. Let me give you a really good example. One of the twists in this movie, I'm not going to say which one, but one of the twists, I called it. Like, the identity of one of the characters, as it's revealed in the movie, totally called it. And there's a reason why, and it's because I feel like when they filmed a particular shot, they didn't exactly hide that character's identity very well. So I was like, oh, that was, So, in a way they're related. There were things I could see coming in this movie too. Not everything, but there were things I could see coming in this movie too. And the other movie was dull too, but it wasn't as much. Here's a really good reason why. To me, this movie was duller because Host is 50-something minutes, and I was bored in this movie for 60.
That's all right, because I was bored in Host for 50.
Well, I just want to say, boys, that one of my main problems when it comes to movies these days is the fact that every movie I've seen is too long here lately.
Oh, yeah. That's a big issue with this movie, too, is it's too long.
It's like, back in those days, you get in there 80, 90 minutes and you're done. These days, you're almost going 2 hours with everything. Yep. And I don't think we need it at all.
Yeah. When you mentioned to me that we were going to do Castle Freak Remake, I pulled it up for the record. I don't know if you mentioned this. It's on Shudder. It's a Shudder exclusive. Mm-hmm. I do find it interesting that they haven't given it a banner like other movies that are their exclusives. And it doesn't say on the poster. It doesn't say on the poster at all in the thing, Shudder exclusive. It just comes up when you play it. I will say that the minute you said that, I opened the thing, pulled it up to add it to my list, and I was like, 109 minutes? I was like, oh.
I didn't even notice that until I was actually watching it.
Like, what the hell, man?
Well, the one we're watching next week is like another long one. It shouldn't be that long,
It's 95.
Yeah,
it's standard. 90 is about standard. So if it's like 90, 95,
I'm gonna tell you, I get to the point where whenever I watch some random indie movie and it says it's like 70 minutes, I'm like, thank God. Like I am so tired of these long ass movies.
Chuck, isn't that about how long your usual movies are?
Yes, usually.
Okay.
I hate having to talk about my movies every time we do one of these shows. But Morbid was too long. Morbid could have cut 10 minutes, and it was like an hour and a half, pretty much.
Definitely could have cut that scene out with the car breaking down.
Yeah, the one I'm in.
See, Chuck, the curse of the independent filmmaker is every time you say that you feel a certain thing about indie filmmakers, you're gonna get compared. You just are. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. It's bad when you're a reviewer and you review movies. And you also make them. It opens up all kinds of trouble. Which, by the way, cheap plug on this thing. I don't know if it's going to show up. This is called Game of Death. I don't know if this thing's on Blu-ray or not, but this was sent to me. It's an MVD movie. Broke case. But it's about, like, these people get this board game, and they have to, like, to play it, you got to put your finger on it and take some of your blood. So then you're in the game, whether you want to or not. And you got to kill a certain amount of people in a certain amount of time. And if you don't do it, then their heads will explode. The players will if they don't kill somebody. And
interesting. Sounds familiar to some other stuff, but interesting.
It's gross. It's bloody. It's short. It's like 70 minutes long. I recommend this, by the way. It's just for an example of like how I like the shorter movies these days. If you haven't seen this, which I've heard nobody talk about this, I'd recommend it. It was made in 2017, but it came out like this year, so that's something like I want more like that. Is what I'm trying to say. Bloody and short-ish. But that has nothing to do with Castle Freak.
We have a difference of opinion here in conclusion, but
for sure.
You should still check out the remake.
We're all over the spectrum with this.
Normally we're like...
Spectrum. Yeah, this is one of our biggest differences of opinion, honestly. This is one of our biggest differences of opinion, honestly. And also, I will point out, we all liked something about this movie. So
W is the Lovecraft fanboy.
Yes,
I think
kind of. So. Yeah,
the biggest Lovecraft fanboy.
Barbara Crampton fanboy. Newsfinder loves the original so much that he can't give the remake gets a little bit of a hard time.
It only gets a hard time in the elements that match up with the remake.
And I'm just impatient because I watched too much, and the first hour and the characters got me. But I like the rest of it. So that's probably why everything's like it is.
We each have our own taste, but it's still something you should check out.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure it's probably going to be an early release next year.
This is about 95% positive going to be on my top 10 of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, there's still like 5 or 6 movies that I want to watch, not necessarily that we're going to review on here, but that I want to watch by January, just so I can, compile my list of everything that I really want to see.
I've already started cramming stuff, man. Like, I've watched like more movies this past week than I've watched in a long time. Just trying to.
And I fucked up because I was watching a bunch of like the Severance stuff that I'd recently got from their mid-year sale that I just got 2 months ago, and we just had their Black Friday sale last week.
Yeah.
So I've been watching a bunch of that stuff when I should have been watching some more 2020 shit just to get it watched. Because now I'm gonna have to. Now I'm gonna have to watch 5 movies.
2020 is on Shudder.
Shudder.
We were talking about that.
Our horror stuff. Yeah.
Because there's nothing coming out.
Yeah.
If you didn't have Shudder, you had a handful of video on demand releases, and then you had like the crap at Walmart gets for $10.
And then every so often something would make it to Netflix that was like an indie stuff. Like I kind of want to see 1BR at some point because that everybody says it's really good.
I've got it, but I need to watch it. I kind of want to see this Freaky movie, by the way. It's basically Freaky Friday, but it's a serial killer and a teenage girl switch places, right? Yep. Vince Vaughn is in it. So there's 2 Vince Vaughns, okay? There's the clowning around joking Vince Vaughn that's hit and miss, and then there's the super serious, dragged across concrete Vince Vaughn that I'm more of a fan of. So I don't know. I feel we're getting
Brawl in Cell Block 99.
Yes, that Vince Vaughn.
Like I didn't realize how big Vince Vaughn is until I watched Brawl in Cell Block 99. He's a big fucking guy.
I waited and watched that. Like, okay, that director, I love his movies, which I mean he did Bone Tomahawk and I liked it. And then when I got Dragged Across Concrete, I waited till I got the 4K of Brawl in Cell Block 99, and then I watched them back to back and was super impressed with those. Because I'm weird, like I had Dragged Across Concrete and Block on Cell Block 99 on DVD, both of them, and would not watch them till I got the other versions of them. But
in all honesty, there's probably not a big difference between 1080 and 4K on there. Just simply by the way it's filmed.
Yeah, Cell Block 99, it looks about as good as it's gonna look on
Blu-ray. It's that fucking hyper motion, like ultra violent stuff, and it's like an action film but a splatter film.
Yeah, like I feel like it's on a lower budget, but I feel like this director is kind of close in dialogue, at least, to Tarantino in some ways, just some ways.
Oh, he's a great director.
Yeah, like there's really good like quotable stuff in every movie he makes, pretty much. So I enjoy stuff. I'm waiting for another one. I also enjoy the guy. It's on a much different level, but I enjoy the guy that did like VFW and Bliss and all that stuff too.
I still haven't seen Bliss.
It's good.
Shudder didn't put it on their list. Shudder didn't put it on their list.
I think it's a 2019 film.
But it didn't come out nowhere to this year, though, did it?
That's what I'm saying. I think there are movies on their list that definitely were released in like festivals and stuff in 2019, and I feel like that would have been one they would have,
Was VFW on it?
No, because like I said, for some apparent reason, even though they just added VFW to Shudder, apparently literally 90% of their best of 2020 list is Shudder originals and Shudder exclusives.
Yeah, but that guy also did Mind's Eye, which was good. It seemed like he did one more movie. What other movie did he do? Almost Human. That's what it was, I think.
Almost Human was awesome.
Yeah. So, but Mind's Eye is like Scanners, pretty much. But besides that, it's good. Like, I love his stuff. I'm waiting for more stuff. There's a little group of indie directors I think that does good these days. Like the guy that did The Battery, he does good little stuff.
All right, so let's buckle in for rapid fire, with the exception of the very first thing I'm going to discuss, news.
Rapid fire news, starting in an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. With the very first thing I'm going to discuss is the only thing I'm going to give more time on, which is this. Since we last recorded, it needs to be said because, goddammit, it's important. Rest in peace, Daria Nicolodi. It's a really big loss in a lot of areas. We reviewed Shock on here, just as an example. It's kind of hard to say just how much of an impact she had over time in a lot of different ways. Anybody else want to say anything?
I figured that Beard would be in shambles over this news when it happened, to be honest with you. Because like you're such a Giallo fan. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything was wrong with her. Was she sick?
I don't know. All I know is that it was announced originally by, I think, Asia Argento and her family that she had passed. But I don't think anybody said why or how, basically.
Yeah, a lot of stuff I could keep quiet. But, yeah, I mean, that's definitely, like, if you want to go to the Italian Giallo genre, that she probably did for that what, Jamie Lee Curtis did for the slasher genre, probably.
You could also make an argument she did what Jamie Lee Curtis and Deborah Hill did for the slasher genre.
Yeah.
In the same exact way, basically.
Yeah. I agree with that. Which she had a big hand in a lot of Argento's movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was his wife for a short time.
Yeah.
And Muse.
And she helped write stuff, didn't she?
Yes. Someone on the Highway to Hell?
Apparently.
Okay. But,
and we are demonetized.
Yeah. It's okay. We gotta get 1,000 subs before we get monetized anyway.
Yeah.
That's true.
Anyway. So
hey, I'm about 55 away myself.
Now that we've done that, time for rapid fire. We're gonna start with Arrow. Since we last recorded, they announced that their Old Boy and Gamera Steelbooks were delayed, but they also announced a Demons 1 and 2 Ultra HD Blu-ray exclusively to the UK. It'll play in America, but you're going to have to order it from like Amazon UK or Arrow UK because Diabolic will not carry it because of the rights holder in America. Hint, hint, Synapse. Probably.
Well, I'd say that if you
probably because Synapse is so hard to work with.
Yep. And they're in their good books right now, so they don't want to mess it up, basically.
You would probably get it from the UK before you ever see the release come from Synapse, probably.
Sure, but yeah. Also announced a UK Blu-ray of, since we talked about it earlier, Beyond Reanimator. Also something called El Duce tapes and Shogun's Joy of Terror. There's also some speculation from one guy online that a list that was seen of what they're coming up with next year looks to be things along the lines of Dune Ultra HD, Phantom of the Mall, Legend. This is all speculation. Possibly Carrie, possibly Conan Ultra HDs. Hellraiser 1 and 2, possibly Ultra HDs, speculation of a Terminator, maybe a Tenebrae, Battle Royale Ultra HD, things like that. So all up in the air, but looks to be a good year for Arrow next year. Severan's claiming they're going to make some mid-December announcement of some kind. They also said after their Black Friday sale, which for the record, the final title was No Way Home from Buddy Giovinazzo. So no Combat Shock, sorry, you're still going to be out of print and out of luck on that. But they announced that next year will include Bruno Mattei, please God Strike Commando, Alex de la Iglesia, Andy Milligan, which probably will be their awaited Andy Milligan box, Joe D'Amato, Terrence Fisher, Deodato, Argento, Jess Franco because it's fucking Severin, Christopher Lee, a lot they said of Christopher Lee, and they also on their website added Laura Gemser, so Black Emmanuel will probably also be involved in whatever they're getting ready to put out.
Where's Dust Devil?
Ha! That's all I'm going to say on that. Yeah.
That's the December one, right?
They're announcing something on their website with a picture of... They said they announced it as a picture of the Severin logo and a bunch of flames behind it, and people were like, does that have anything to do with what you're announcing? And they were like, no, it's just a picture of flames.
They kind of got clowned on for their Black Friday thing, because a lot of people went out of their way to say, well, Vinegar Syndrome's a lot better.
Yeah, big time.
They are.
They were, but I mean, I've been listening to their Black Friday podcast episodes, and like the guy talking about who made Attic Expeditions, he's talking about it. It seems like it's probably a really good movie, and I will reiterate, I have never seen it, but from everything I've heard, I will stan Family Portraits because some of the segments in that are supposed to be absolutely batshit.
I just want the anthology film documentary,
Ordered it myself.
Yeah, but there's only so much out there that anybody can get at this point,
Of course. Vinegar Syndrome, their secret titles were, as everybody expected, Silent Madness in 3D plus a Viewmaster, because why the hell not? Don't Panic, Martial Law 1 and 2, Cynthia Rothrock all the way. Action USA, a thing that W ordered, which would be Smut Without Smut, which is 2 separate movies. Slipcovers for Nightmare Sisters, Malibu High, Witch Trap, and Don't Go Into the Woods Alone. The Nightmare Sisters slipcover blew everybody's minds because it was an amazing looking slipcover.
I ordered one.
Then they announced for January Cthulhu Mansion, Dark Tower. Both of those look great. Satan's Blood. I've seen it. It's really weird. It's got one of those all-time weird satanic orgy scenes in it. That's all I'm going to say.
Is that the one that Shameless put out a long time ago?
Scorpion did as part of their Scorpion did as part of the Katarina's Nightmare Theater line. Before that, the copy I have is the Mondo Macabro one. It's also known as Escalofrio. It's a Spanish movie. They also announced, I don't know which one it is off the top of my head, but it's another version of Edgar Allan Poe's House of Usher. It's, I think, from like 89. Jeremy, it's a movie from another company. Curious Case of Dr. Hump. It's a something weird co-production. I ordered during Black Friday, and now I will be waiting until January for my movies. The AGFA Horror Trailer Show, which is going to be amazing and come with 2 mixtapes of crazy horror trailers that probably won't be seen anywhere else. They also announced they're getting ready to do Umberto Lenzi's Hitcher in the Dark, Rush Week, Beyond Dream's Door, and then as part of Black Friday, they announced their subscriber package and listed things including Death Promise, Homegrown Horror, which is a box set of no-budget 80s regional horror, what appears to be 2 separate Giallo, Forgotten Giallo box sets, the Beyond Dream's Door I mentioned already, Devil Story, Shallow Grave, and another 3-film Euro horror Giallo box set. So lots and lots and lots of box sets from Vinegar Syndrome next year.
I'm more interested in the regional horror one. When is that coming out? When is that coming out?
I thought you might be. That's coming out in April.
Well, depending on when they do the Atlanta Horror Convention next year, if they do one, that'll probably be my Vinegar Syndrome purchase if it's out when I go.
Yeah, that is April. Then from there, I just want to bring this up because I'm a fan of them. Since speaking of AGFA, they do mixtapes on their website to help support AGFA. They're usually really super cheap. The 5 they've done so far to this point I'm speaking are like $1 to $3 each, and you get an hour of just utterly random shit. And the ones I've seen so far are all pretty much horror related on some level. You get a lot of behind the scenes stuff for, movies you'd expect and movies you wouldn't expect. I saw behind the scenes shit for Jaws of the Revenge, and that's something I never thought I'd see anywhere. If you ever wanted to see Michael Caine try and sell being in Jaws of the Revenge, there's your opportunity. But I mentioned it because they announced a $5 mixtape they're just putting out now, the AGFA Christmas Special, which, if it's anything like their other mixtapes, it's going to be crazy and just full of random Christmas shit. Unearthed. Olaf Ittenbach's No Reason. I have no idea what that is. Does anybody know what that is?
I'll watch anything that guy does because that's a low budget splatter.
Bloody Moon, right?
Yes.
It looks. Burning Moon. Is that the artwork that looked like Cthulhu?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. This director, Burning Moon's great. He did another one that I'm drawing blank on, Black Past or Black Mass or something like that. The one that Massacre Video put out on DVD. But it's all German splatter pretty much. So I've never actually I wasn't aware that he did anything that could be put on Blu-ray because everything I've ever seen by him was shot on video. So this is interesting.
Great cover.
Yeah, but Unearthed, we didn't give them credit. They've put out some good stuff lately.
Yes, I need to watch your review of Untold Story. I know you put one up, Chuck.
I was a fan of it, and I like the documentary on
it. Full Moon, since we were talking about them in part on this, I do want to bring up they were getting ready to release Orgy of the Living Dead, and it was The Hands That Feed the Dead, or The Hand That Feeds the Dead. And they announced there was a huge authoring issue, and so literally every single copy got pulled, and they're going to have to reprint all of them, which looks real great for that Giallo, that forgotten Giallo they're going to put out next year, Body in the Park or something like that. Like the
Full Moon's going to full moon now.
Full Moon's going to full moon, basically.
But they pulled a trauma on this one.
Yeah,
What's that movie called? Something about a naked girl.
The naked girl in the park, naked girl's body found in the park, or something like that. Yeah, like a really super obscure Giallo they announced, basically.
Up to this point, though, I will give Full Moon credit. All their Blu-rays look decent, so
that's their own shit.
At least they caught this.
I said that's their own shit, but yeah.
At least Charles Band, it ain't like he ain't got the money. So.
Right.
Speaking of Synapse and demons and stuff, Synapse did announce a title for next year. I know nothing about it. That movie would be Killing Time with Bruce Campbell. Apparently it's some kind of action movie. I really couldn't tell you what Synapse is doing with their releases right now, because it's weird, man.
But like, I'll give like a Bruce Campbell movie. I'll give it a spin, But what about, are they not doing a wide release for this Massacre at whatever high or whatever it is?
Diabolic and themselves, to my knowledge.
Oh yeah, because Diabolic, you can't buy Synapse stuff. They will not ship outside the United States.
Yeah.
That's why they have to have such a good relationship with Diabolic, because Diabolic's the only way to get their stuff out of the States.
And when their stuff is region free, as much of it is, yeah, that'll help. I also have, just to bring it up real quick, I keep seeing this headline that Neil Blomkamp filmed a sci-fi horror movie while in quarantine, and a lot of the headlines are making it like he's doing it like it's different, like from him, making District 9. I mean, anybody interested though in Neil Blomkamp apparently making a sci-fi horror movie during the pandemic?
Well, as long as you don't hit us over the head that's during the pandemic like Host did.
Yeah, that's the one thing I will say. It still fit. I said I liked it more. It doesn't mean it's a great movie. I mean,
yeah.
Mondo Macabro announced they're going to do 2 Paul Naschy movie next year. I again know absolutely nothing about these two. Howl of the Devil and The Frenchman's Garden.
Well, his movies are decent.
Oh, yeah, his movies are decent. I'm just saying it's kind of like Severin with Jess Franco as Mondo Macabro with Paul Naschy is. Basically just
Paul
whatever
Naschy.
they can find.
I'll take Paul Naschy over Jess Franco any day of the week.
Absolutely.
I don't blame you. I agree. The last thing
Paul
I'll mention...
Paul Naschy's werewolf films are probably some of the best. Lobo is awesome.
I wish Scream Factory would actually come out with another collection of his, because I really enjoyed the other one.
I need to get hold of those because I need to get hold of those. I got the Vincent Price ones, but I need to get hold
of
those.
I only have the first one. I don't have the second one.
It's rare that they actually do foreign shit, so.
Yeah, which I mean, all these companies getting all this stuff that they used to have now for 4K. Like Kino took Mad Max and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's rumors that Arrow's got Carrie and all that stuff. Scream Factory is probably going to be scrambling. Whatever they got probably is going to be on 4K next year, I'm thinking. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of new stuff. I've heard rumors, and last time I was right about these rumors, by the way.
Yes, you were. I was going to say.
That the next big set is a Nightmare on Elm Street set.
It wouldn't surprise me. Warner Brothers desperate for money right now.
I'm desperate for that. Because the fucking set that's out sucks dick.
But the problem is at this point, which you could say the same thing about the Jason set. More on that in a minute. Why didn't they do a 4K of them? Just because they'd had to charge like $200 for the set.
For the Nightmare. Oh, the Friday. Yeah.
For the Friday the
13th. You're doing 13 movies. You're not gonna do 10 to 13 movies.
At this point, I feel like everybody wants a 4K set of everything though. So it's like, okay, but now a remastered Blu-ray set of Nightmare on Elm Street would definitely be a selling point. Make it like you did the other sets. Everything in its own case. I don't think there's no alternate cuts of anything. But if you at least get them looking decent, that'd be an improvement.
That might take effort, though. And considering how they did some of the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, Friday the 13th stuff,
there's a problem every time they do a box set,
Yeah.
Halloween, without single.
Massacre Video. We have announced Tales from Deep Hell and Flesh Contagium. Again,
I need to buy more Massacre videos, so I'm behind on their stuff, and I like some of the obscure stuff they put out.
That's what I'm saying. It's shot on video, so I'm bringing it up in case you hadn't seen it. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that crap, and it's crap for the most part, but I love it.
We're going to be real brief here on this because it's the last thing I got before we hear Chuck's story of Friday the 13th.
If you haven't already heard it on my other channel, I'll give the sum up one here.
Warner Brothers announced that all of their theatrical slate next year is going to be released theater and HBO Max at the exact same time. There's reasons for this. They relate in part to the fact that Warner Brothers, which is part owned by AT&T on some level, is desperate to get as much money as they can out of HBO. Theaters have been getting screwed by their contracts for years before now. So that if this kills theaters, it ain't going to be this killing it. It'll be everything else plus this. Most people, they were kind of like they understood why theaters would be in that position. They also kind of understood why Warner Brothers would be in that position because of Tenet. And then Chris Nolan came out and said HBO Max is the worst streaming service. And because he pushed to get Tenet put out there, now everybody hates him instead. But basically just here's hoping that doesn't become too much of a trend. I mean, I won't lie. I don't always need to see something in the theater to get a good experience out of it. I don't think any of us do. But sometimes it's good to see it in theaters. So I'd like them to still be at least around.
Yeah.
But strange times and interesting times going on. Right
You know who wins? The bootleggers win.
Oh, yes. The bootleggers win from purely the fact that HBO Max, Netflix, Hulu, and all the other ones exist.
You're gonna have on Christmas Day when Wonder Woman comes out, you're gonna have a 4K rip of Wonder Woman on the internet by that night, within an hour.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. If not before.
So I feel like they're really gonna hurt themselves in the long run with it. Of course I understand this pandemic. We've been talking about that now for 50 years, I think. But hopefully things go back to normal next year with that, and in the movie industry, because I like theaters, for the most part, and I like drive-ins, and there's still a couple around here, so that's good stuff too.
Yep, we need more of those.
We do.
Anyway, so Chuck, Friday the 13th, tell us all, how did you come upon having the hottest item of the year for horror fans?
The hottest item of the year. Well, this story starts on Thanksgiving night. That was the night. Like, we've been dipping and dabbing into my personal life on here about females and whatnot here lately. But let's just say, to sum up things quickly, the female companion that I was in association with on Thanksgiving night went back to her previous fella. Okay.
This sounds like the most just so you know, when you describe it like that, it sounds like the most clinical relationship in human history.
Well, I'm trying to be vague, I'm trying to be vague.
I got you. Go ahead.
And then of course our buddy, Dance Commander, was sent 2 Hangman Page figures, AEW, and if he didn't have sent one back, he was going to send it to me, I assume, if he had sent it back. So, bummed out, I woke up Friday morning or late Thanksgiving night, one or the other, and I said, guys, it's like this. I said, I'm never getting an Honest Woman, I'm never getting an AEW figure, and I'm never getting the Friday the 13th box set. Lo and behold, I go to McKay's in Chattanooga, which, we went over what McKay's is, the used place. People bring their stuff in, they get money for it, and they resell it, basically. So I'm standing around there. I took some stuff in, and I'm standing around there with grooms and killing time. They have an area in the back that's for, like, the more expensive stuff. So, and I'm standing there, and I look, and I spot it a mile away. That is the Friday 13th set, the new one. Grooms had no clue what this was, And I walked up there.
I don't buy that for a second, but...
No, he didn't. He didn't have a clue it was even out,
I buy
So I'm like, that's the Friday 13th set. So we go over there, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll ask how much it is, because it's behind the thing, so it's got to be up in the hundreds. Okay. So I say, how much is that Friday 13th box set? She replies, it's $30. To which point I go, huh? Because
for reference, as we record this, on my Facebook today, I saw someone selling a Friday the 13th set with replacement disc for $123.
Exactly. Like
on Amazon, it's $129 as of today.
So when she said 30, I had to hear it again because I thought there's no way that's $30. Also, when she said that was $30, there was no way I was leaving there without it. So I was like, yes, I will take that. And she's like, well, if you don't take it, I'm gonna take it. I'm like, well, I'm taking it. So,
of course, I'd say.
So then I had this predicament. It's like, what I'm there for, I technically shouldn't be spending any of this money that I have, but I'm going to do it if I have to. But lo and behold, Grooms is sitting there next to me with like $70 worth of store credit just wasted away. So we, begin negotiating right off the bat. I'm like, look, you get this, and I'll give you this, and blah, 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 blah. So nonetheless, I leave there with it for $30. And there's not a thing wrong with it. It's mint condition. It's got every disc it's supposed to have. But it was $30. And the only thing it ended up costing me at the end of the day was I gave him the old 10 version, the Warner Brothers 10 version. And I said, you can keep it or you can sell it and make your money back, whichever way you want to do it. But I ended up with what I wanted, which was the Screen Factory version. And with the new transfers and all that good stuff. So it was my lucky day. Somebody goofed up, obviously. Somebody goofed up bad. And I can only assume that they priced it as the 1 through 8 Blu-ray set that's like at Walmart. Or they, meant to print out 130 and only printed $30 on it. So, whoever took it either had stole it and didn't know what it was worth off somebody's porch, like we discussed this. It stole it off the porch or something. Or they took so much stuff that they didn't realize they got shortchanged on that. So it's one or the other. But now I have it. So whenever we have our episodes, we go back and you're waving your box set around. I can now wave my box set around. I just can't wave the replacement disc because I feel like they're holding me up on.
I've got those.
Because
I don't want it. So
I don't have a physical receipt because they don't give you receipts there. So all I have is the price tag that was on the box that said $30. And I'm like, I even sent my PR contacts a message. I was like, hey, you ain't gonna believe this, but I got this set for $30, but I need the replacement disc and I don't know how to go about it. And all they did was give me the link. They didn't even say yay or nothing. So I feel like I've offended these people in some way now. But it's like, obviously somebody, like they didn't get screwed on this deal because somebody bought it for full price.
I mean, worst case scenario, you don't get the discs. You still fucking won.
Right, yeah. And also, if you ask the PR guys, they're going to tell you, email this thing, because that's what everybody had to email. Yeah. So, I mean...
Yeah, but, like, the thing is, like, you're supposed to show this receipt and all this stuff in these pictures, And I, like, you guys had to do, like, what'd you do? Did you show them a picture of your receipt, or what'd you do when you got your
I took a screenshot of my order and uploaded it.
See, that's what you had.
You ordered it from their site, though, didn't you?
No, I ordered from Amazon.
Oh, that's right. You had to cancel, and they got cheaper.
So I had a picture of a box set with the price tag on it and a piece of paper underneath it saying, "My name is Chuck Connery. This was purchased blah 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 blah." And I've got nothing back from it. So I don't know. But obviously, I have a set in these pictures. Okay, somebody needs to send me a replacement disc. But because if I don't get the replacement disc, here's what I'm missing. Right, I'm missing audio gone on Jason X. I'm missing a wrist snap gone on Jason Goes to Hell, which was the whole purpose of this release anyway, because we didn't have the uncut version on disc on the last version. And I'm missing like a goofed up rendering of the 3D version of Part 3 that I'll never actually watch anyway. So,
it's bad.
Yeah. But like I said, at the end of the day, like I said, you can't complain because I won. This is the purchase of the year, obviously. It'll probably never happen again. Although at one time they had the Screen Factory Halloween set for $60, and our buddy Goob was there and missed his chance to buy that. I wasn't around for that, but that was my Black Friday, pretty much. So still no
bad way to spend it.
Still no honest women out there, but I've got the Friday 13th box set. So
1 to 3 is not bad.
Not endorsed. That statement is not endorsed by Exorcast.
Now these people are married, okay? You can't take their word for it. They're brainwashed.
Also not endorsed by Exorcast.
No comment.
Most of my friends have been divorced, so that should tell you something.
Yes.
About them, I guess, but nonetheless, that's a good note to leave it on, I guess.
Yes, it's positive. It gives people hope for the future.
That's right. Always ask about prices. Always check the store with a fine-tooth comb. And even if you have to spend your last penny that's supposed to go to something important, spend it anyway.
Is that why you couldn't pay your phone bill?
Well, no, because remember, I went to grooms for this.
Oh.
I always suck at money management, boys. Okay, that's my problem, is I suck at money management. And I always end up, days away from a phone bill, and I have to sell something to make the phone bill usually.
Also, we recommend, of course, that if you are somewhere,
I pay his phone bill every month.
Cost,
he pretty well does.
We also recommend, of course, if you are somewhere, something's supposed to be a certain price, you see the price tag on it, ask for the price.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how I got a nice, good price on a vacuum cleaner.
Anyway. Yeah. That's another thing that makes me think there's an error with just putting the price on it, because it was in the expensive box set area behind the counter.
Maybe it was there because it's such a big box set, though.
That's true. That is true. Which it's kind of flimsy, by the way. I will say that much.
Are you shocked by that? We're not talking vinegar syndrome here.
Well, it's like, that's one thing that I don't understand why they won't make thicker boxes. Like the most that's the thing. Their Creep Show release had the best box because it was thick. It was like an Arrow release, and I thought that this was going to be like their turn of doing more stuff like Arrow. Apparently, I was wrong. But I only paid $30, so why am I complaining?
Yeah.
Next week, we're talking about porno on the show.
Yes, we are.
The movie porno.
Proudly, in fact.
Proudly. I wonder how we're going to be able to, are we going to get flagged for this? Can we put porno in a title and all that stuff?
I'm sure we can.
We can probably make up an interesting name for it or something instead.
But
that movie on Shudder, that'd be about adult entertainment.
Yeah.
Like in all honesty, we'll record porno next week, but it's probably not going to be the next episode out.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Because this is going up the week before Christmas, so we'll probably have our Christmas episode up.
Yeah, okay, so we'll probably review something else before the porno, but we're coming up to porno, so if you're interested in porno and you want to get ahead of us, watch it on Shudder.
It gives me an excuse to wear my Christmas sweater I bought next week.
Well, good.
I might wear a Christmas shirt. I don't know. Hey.
All right, guys. It's good talking to you after 2 weeks.
Yep.
Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. And, we haven't told Chuck to shut up in a while, so go ahead and do that.
Yeah, go ahead. I haven't said nothing to be told to shut up for, though.
Apart from discussing indigenous people today.
Yeah, my Native American comment.